surge in podcasts,
सोशल मीडिया अभी खत्म हो गया है.
how much control you can keep as a brand owner. Or
Podcast was a surge, now it's not happening anymore.
it would be a nice way to start the podcast.
What this podcast is about?
No, not what this podcast is about,
But structure करने का podcast है.
yes, of course. I'm not letting go of my structure, man. That's too
We'll
important.
see.
Addressing the general surge in podcasts, and I think, or
But I think
rather,
that's died now. Like the surge in
has it?
podcasts. Yeah, for sure.
I meant specifically from our perspective, in terms of what we are seeing.
Have you ever invested in stocks before?
Yes.
So you invest before the stock rises, right? That's what's happening with clients right now. A lot of people that I'm talking to, they're all just like, हाँ, podcast was a surge, now it's not happening anymore.
Brand communications on digital platforms have reached that influx point कि अब इसके आगे
हाँ,
मेरे को
मतलब
और बात करना है, but
I was talking to a friend of mine, he's into media buying and selling.
okay.
He was so confident that social media अभी खत्म हो गया है. In 1 year it's going to like die. He was like, everyone's going to come back to hoardings, radios, newspaper, because there was a huge surge in content creation on social media. While you were at it before everyone got onto it, it was an advantage then.
Yeah.
Now it's not an advantage anymore. But with media buying and selling, everyone stopped doing real estate. Like everyone stopped doing hoarding ads, radio ads.
Right.
If you see, the entire hoarding industry is only based on real estate right now and politics. But so he was saying forget podcast. He was saying social media ही अभी इतना saturate हो गया है. Every brand is online. What's the advantage now?
Yeah, I guess they will find out when they step into those shoes, right?
But you as somebody who's pitching this to clients, would you pitch social media or would you pitch hoardings or podcasts?
It depends on the what
Brand
communication that they want to put out and the
But it
scale at
doesn't
which
matter
they
now
want
you're
to do
doing
it.
brand awareness and sales. मतलब the end goal for every client to come on platforms like an Instagram or a
But
Facebook is to drive sales.
Eventually, it's a part of their pockets, right?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
can go out and do. I'll give you all three, but
Yeah.
can you pay for all three? And after paying all three, are you getting your desired results or not?
Maybe that's why we reached the podcast stage.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
media was getting so expensive.
Exactly.
What was the cheapest way to reach people?
Yeah. 5,000 per camera per hour.
But like, is doing a podcast worth it? Like,
Yeah.
I would ask you that question because I've done quite a few podcasts and I thought that I'll get business through podcasts.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. What's your perspective on that?
I think the point that I was making earlier, there's only so much communication that can be done on reels or stories or carousels that you make. And I feel as someone who's done branding and strategy,
How long?
that's a very 2.5, 3 years. It's a one-way communication. Ki I have
What is
put
a
it
one-way
out.
communication?
Social media in its in its general format, right? I've put out my content, but now I have to wait for the data to come back, look at how many people have interacted, engaged, commented, etc., 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 to be able to figure out कि यार इसका हुआ
Sorry,
क्या?
saying कल shoot a client का उसको call आया.
Let's go. See,
Hello?
this is how you know you're at a biddy. That people have realized that you have to wait for such a, like your turnaround time is so long after you have put out the communication from your side. You want to talk to your audience as a brand, and you're like कि मैंने बोल दिया, I have to wait for a month and see what they feel about it.
Correct.
Whereas as a brand now, for example, someone like a Speedy Pandit or somebody else who's doing this, they can bring their collaborators, they can bring their target audience, and then just try to, obviously it's not a mass data, but it is real organic data जो किसी के सामने बैठ के देखो पता चल रहा है.
The clients that were doing video content for right now, they're very clear they don't care about generating revenue.
Right.
They are very clear that they are only doing this because they want to generate brand value and awareness. They are not selling anything in their podcast.
Do you think people should expect revenue from podcasts?
Yeah, of course they should, but not immediately. If the podcast is good, then why not? Look at, so I mean, I don't know if you know. Do you know any podcasts that are making money right now?
Not at the top of my head. I mean, obviously
But-
the
but
ones who are
forget the
established
money.
and that
Are
segment
they
is
creating
different.
brand awareness? Have you seen any podcasts?
That is what I was coming to, because eventually the conversation goes and the client is like, "Acha, theek hai, I know कि maybe for the first 6 to 8 months I may not monetize this for myself, but what kind of a brand awareness will it create?" And tapping into that mindset of a owner, specifically the owner, because the marketing manager or the marketing
gonna
team
understand, yeah.
will not understand that. It is always going to be the owner who sort of understands the value of what a brand is, that gut feeling ki when I say the Lost Project, what muscle is activated in my stomach, what neural pattern is activated in my brain, and what actually happens to people when my brand name is put out there.
Correct.
So I think it's about time that brands should start thinking more about the awareness that they are bringing out, and through what channels. I think I mean, it's easier said than done. Ki don't think about the money that you're putting in right now into it, but
they can think
start,
about the money they're putting
right?
in.
But start
it's not
small.
Much. Like we said, it's 5,000 rupees a camera. We're doing a 3-camera setup right now because it's in-house for us.
Right.
But a single camera podcast for 1 hour, $5,000. I mean, you're not going to get that anywhere.
That's absolutely true. But also, you know, when people do think about putting in money, it's always...
Sorry, one more client's calling up.
This is not scripted. Trust me, this is not scripted. You can edit it. You can edit it. It's not live. Thank you. Guys, you want to say hi to our social media strategist, Miss Janvi? Do you want to say hi to our audience? Oh yeah. Do you want to say hi to our audience? Why not?
Do you think, I mean, just a thought I had, mock site visit or mock bungalow property visit with these guys who already have 10,000, 20,000 kind of followers.
Correct.
त्याच्यासोबत एक interactive discussions के लिए site वरती तर. So
that is also possible, but then I would suggest कि if you're going to anyway spend that 8,000, 10,000 on getting the influencer, we might as well get somebody who doesn't have that reach but is like related to our topic, and we boost that video. That way we can control our reach, na?
I just thought we can reach with boosting it.
Correct.
But the engagement आपल्याला पाहिजे किंवा at some nominal cost.
What
happens is not only does the video get a reach, but also gets good engagement. People like to hear his opinions, his thoughts, because there is already existing built follower base. So that way, I feel that rather than just increasing the reach by making payments to Facebook, why not invite people?
Yeah, I think perfect. Then our vacation home wala concept we can do with them.
Yeah, we can invite them to the studio and have a chat with them.
Yeah, done.
तो already site कर चुके हैं, studio बुला के कर.
So that has been a masterclass from Advait about if you are someone who's thinking about putting your money into podcasts, what happens to your money, which is point one, biggest concern, or the point of interest that people have that they want answers to, and then you can start from there and see where it goes. But I love that pivot that you did where he was like यार 8-10 हज़ार दे के किसी को बुला के लेके आता है, and how you try to control the reach that it goes out to and how it goes out to those people.
Correct. Makes sense now. You're going to spend 10,000. You're gambling with an influencer.
Yeah.
No offense to influencers, but you never know what is going to reach. Like Instagram also can't tell you what is going to reach and what isn't.
I mean, there's a certain level of surety that I think influencers certainty that influencers bring with them.
Next podcast we're going to do with an influencer. We're going to ask them this question. Just remember.
Yeah, we should, and because see, there is a certain level of certainty, right? Because otherwise, this industry wouldn't exist. Impact of doing podcasts with or without influencers.
Correct.
Would someone? Would it be wise to suggest someone to do it with an influencer and sort of bank on the reach, credibility, etc., that a particular influencer brings in, or you try to internalize that by keeping control over the outreach that it goes?
See, personally, I think you should keep control over the outreach because influencer marketing is uncontrolled.
Can you define it for them?
Like,
what do you mean uncontrolled?
You can call me an influencer because I've got say 15,000 followers on Instagram, and I get like 20,000 views every time I put in collaboration with Avni.
Right.
मतलब मेरा reach तो 25,000 हो रही है.
Right.
But अगर तूने मेरे को बोला तो podcast डाल, मेरा podcast 2,000, 5,000, 7,000 तक जाता है. कभी-कभी 10,000 तक जाता है. But I don't know ना.
Right. Yeah, like it has reached them, but what of it?
What of it?
Yeah.
But when you run ads, you can like literally send it to people who you want to see.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing a podcast, like let's say for example Speedy Pandit, they are doing a podcast, they are running ads, they are reaching the people that might purchase their product. To influencer ko dega. I'm specifically talking about podcasts and not influencer marketing campaigns. I'm sending it to specific people around. We're doing it with Mayank. He's doing a podcast with other athletes who have good reach. Like he did one with a cricketer who's like under 18, because he's playing the game.
Right.
I mean, also that depends on surety. Like the guy we just spoke to, he did an influencer marketing campaign and he was convinced to do podcast with an influencer because of that.
Yeah, makes sense. And what industry is he into?
He's into travel, but the client is a real estate guy. Like he's selling plots, and apparently that guy put out a video on YouTube about the plot, and he sold land because of the influencer. Like these are rare stories that come out, and if you have a client who has such kind of story, matlab, it's the best for an agency, man. Like I don't have to sit and convince him for 2 hours ki bhai influence marketing kar, podcast kar.
He sold land, which is मतलब
Yeah,
आज के
25
डेट
lakhs
में
upwards, huh?
yeah, the acquisition cost for people to just sell consumer electronics or consumer lifestyle centric products जो which is in average ticket size अगर उसका 2000 rupees भी है is like इतना मेहनत करो, brainstorming करो and figure out what pipeline, what funnel, at what time, which festival do I align it with, which influencer do I actually go out and partner with, and on the basis of that इतने लोग शायद मेरा प्रोडक्ट खरीदेंगे. Whereas you apply or implement a strategy like this. No, take it, answer it. At this point, I want you to answer it. How much control you can keep as a brand owner or as a function owner, where you have accountability to what content is going out and what comes off of it for yourself. Maybe do you want to talk about?
Do you want to talk about a case study that has worked in terms of a podcast series? So have you heard of this? We have one client. They're called the volcano effect. Have you heard of what we do? So just to introduce, Jatin's heading business development for us in terms of video content, social media and branding. And the reason we're doing this podcast in the first place is to understand whether creating content is helpful for us as an agency to generate clients.
Yeah.
That's where the conversation is headed. So that's why we started with the podcast. So the volcano effect, they came to us last year and said, I want to start a program where I'm helping businesses grow as a consultant. He has another company called ZDN, which is a consultancy which helps startups and businesses with external marketing, HR and finance. It'd be so cool to us having a conversation about random stuff and people finding value out of it just because it was recorded.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference, and you don't know what people relate to today.
It's about essentially you're talking about opening doors to who, and this is for everybody to choose what works for them. You want to open doors to yourself or your employees, your work culture, your organization, your target audience, your products and services. You choose what you want to talk about, but please, for the love of God, talk about it.
Yeah,
because
share it,
it's not it's not, this communication is not meant to be just on stories or just on YouTube or just on different platforms.
Correct.
This, I think, is the most organic version, if you
can
will.
have a secret podcast also where you talk to somebody that and just share it to them on WhatsApp, man. Like just talk.
Yeah.
Don't market, talk.
Yeah.
Like we would love to market what we're doing right now because we want people to open up to having a conversation.
Right.
And I think we should bring in clients, man, for this. Like we should bring one client every week and do a podcast with them and ask them questions like, why do you think you should do a podcast?
They would be so happy to receive that one. And everyone would see that it's a pivotal point for their organization and for themselves, because there are so many things that come up in these conversations that, and we're not making any claims that hey, all of it was going to be useful or you're going to love everything about it, but there are certain things that you will realize because you're present in this moment and you're paying attention to what you're talking about, and it will shed light on certain things that you may have to work on, you may have to improve, you may have to sideline, discard, whatever it is, but it will open those doors for those avenues.
The most famous podcaster in India is the Ranveer Alabadia show, right?
Yeah.
What does he talk about? Actors don't want to talk about what they're doing. Everybody knows what an actor is doing.
Right.
He's still inviting them because they just feel like talking to somebody.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. He's gotten famous on an emotion of sharing.
Yeah.
Because he wants people to share about what they feel.
See, there are so many different structures also to it, right? For example, Lex Friedman does something that is very, very scripted from his side, because it's an information exchange at the
Correct.
end of the day.
Correct.
So the guests that come onto his platform are people
Well-read.
who well read and most of those things, but there is something that a wider audience is already paying attention to that needs to be spoken about. So he has a very dedicated set of questions, if not a script. Joe Rogan on the other side is like,
Shit.
let's wing
Talk
it.
shit.
Let's wing it, man. You want to smoke a doob with me? Let's do that. You want to smoke? You want to drink? All of that goes. But I am essentially one of the pioneers of this space, so that is what my credibility is.
Yeah.
This industry exists because I used to do it in this same format when nobody was watching me.
Correct.
And then there are different people who have come up in India and other countries
Yeah.
alike, where everybody has their structure to it, and our structure is that we don't have a structure. We're saying that just
really?
come in and I mean certain things, right? There are certain things where you have to let go of it and you have to be flexible. So we're saying that come in, try it out, and whatever comes out of it, either ways, content is content. You choose whether you
And-
want to market it or
Yeah,
not.
and honestly, with the pricing that we're doing, like, I'll just tell you what pricing we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We're doing $5,000 for a single camera for an hour,
Yeah.
which includes the entire podcast of that 1 hour plus 10 reels or as many reels as you want.
Yeah.
I mean, the price isn't going to get better than this, and the opportunity also isn't.
Yeah, you
Like-
can check, but
like-
it won't.
Yeah, you can go out and hire a videographer. He's going to charge you $5,000 for the entire day. What about your edits? What
Yeah.
about your setup?
Yeah.
What about your mics? What about your lights? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm pricing it at this point is because I feel like people really want to talk, but don't know where and how.
More than people wanting to talk, it is about them
Share.
wanting to be heard.
Heard.
They
Okay.
want to be heard, and they say these things. They do so many other things that go rather unnoticed. And there's something very interesting that I read yesterday on LinkedIn. It was on the lines of, nobody likes to be most of the people do not like to be micromanaged, but absolutely nobody likes to be macro neglected.
That's
Right? So it is something on those lines कि यार मैं अपना काम कर रहा हूँ, but how many other avenues and possibilities do I have where I can showcase more of me, more of my work? And I think this is one of the most organic platforms and the way to do it. And again, this comes with the brackets of doing it with us, and this is where I will pull a plug on ourselves, because we try to be as humble as we can in our personal lives, right? But when it comes to your professional life, we come with a little bit of pride to what we do, and we love what we do. So we know that we are doing this, and we are doing this well on the basis of what we have been doing for the last couple of months, and the impact that it has had, minuscule or more than that, in different organizations. For some people, it was like, hey, what we were talking about has now gone out and translated into revenue for me.
Correct.
Somebody else comes in and drops an email saying, hey, really busy because of such and such reasons, but that particular podcast helped me in portraying, positioning my brand in
Correct,
this particular
correct.
way.
That's
So
why we're doing it right now.
yeah, so it helps in both of those ways, and I think you will only find out once you.
Do it.
It's podcasts are like snaps. The more you snap
Our
it,
delivery is also like that.
yeah, the more you snap, the more you know whether it is for you or not.
True. Sorted. So, like, I think that's
Yeah.
a good podcast. I mean,
Yep. I mean,
hopefully
I
we
wouldn't call it
recorded most of it.
I wouldn't call it a podcast, because for me it is not structured. But but I would love to believe that it's a good start, and
Bas, end it there. End it there. It's a good start.
for me personally, I wouldn't say it was a podcast because it wasn't structured. But yeah, I believe that it really did go well.